I think people are underestimating how important the new FL Studio 20.6 update really is. So for one, they've introduced a new effects plugin called Destructor. And this is the first of its kind inside of FL Studio. So now in one window, you have access to multiple effects that actually make sense together. On top of that, these effects are really high quality because they actually come from their top-of-the-line flagship plugins like Harmor. So for example, in their distortion unit here, if you go to their drop-down menu, you'll see not only does it have Fruity Blood Overdrive, which is my favorite distortion inside of FL Studio until now, they've also included all the Harmor distortion algorithms as well. And on top of that, you have these additional algorithms, Wavefolder, Aperture, Abrasive, and Crusher, which is a bit crusher. So now they're introducing a whole lot more colors and flavors that you could add on top of your instruments. So even if you already owned Harmor, this is a great unit because now you don't have to rely on resampling or types of resynthesis of other instruments to get these flavors inside of Harmor. You could add these on top of any plugin. This also includes a filter which has all of the filters from their new plugin Flex, which is great because before this plugin came out, my favorite plugin in FL Studio was actually Fruity Love Filter. But there's some issues with Fruity Love Filter that I'll actually get into when I drop my Destructor Effects plugin breakdown. But until then, just know that because of this filter section alone, this has replaced Fruity Love Filter in terms of my favorite effects plugin inside of FL Studio. I'll also get into the chorus and speaker effects in that video as well. So another reason why this is a big deal for FL Studio users, many users would agree that FL Studio's piano roll is one of the best in the game, if not the best. And you'll hear this from people that don't even use FL Studio. But one of the features that other DAWs had that FL Studio did not have was the ability to copy MIDI from a MIDI output and convert that onto the piano roll. For example, in FL Studio, you can go into the channel settings and add an arpeggiator, but you would still be stuck with the individual notes that you use to activate that ARP. But now you can right-click any of the channels on your channel rack and select Burn MIDI to, and it will convert all of the arpeggiated notes into a MIDI sequence on your piano roll that you could then go manipulate. So that's one area that FL Studio was lacking in the MIDI department. I do have a future video going more into detail about how you would use this, but I really want to keep this video short and sweet, so I highlight why this 20.6 update is such a big deal and so important for FL Studio users. Back when I first started with FL Studio, you couldn't even record audio into this DAW. Ever since then, they've added quite a few different features in terms of audio manipulation, but now they've added a new plugin called New Time. And the way that you access this, you could double-click your audio, which brings up the sampler, and then you can right-click in the sampler window and choose Edit in Time Warper. And this is great for vocals because a lot of times you might have a vocal performance that doesn't quite line up with the grid. Maybe you want to extend a word or two, maybe you want to shorten a word or two to make things match up. So now you can go in here, add time markers, and from there you can stretch or shorten any section of your audio. So now we went from this to this. So it's just a quick and easy way to go in and manipulate certain sections of your audio. Again, coming up soon, I definitely have another tutorial going more in depth about this and how you could really take advantage of this new tool. Another complaint that I had, along with many others, is the automation inside of FL Studio. So I'm gonna go in here and make an automation clip real quick and drag this underneath so you can see what we're working with. And it was always really difficult to go in here and make your automation points and draw these in and manipulate your different points. You always had to do them one at a time, and it would always get quite messy. But now you could go in here and go to Articulator Tools, and you have all these options from flip vertically, scale levels, normalize, decimate points, filter, smooth up, so on and so forth. But what's really interesting is this create sequence option, and this really allows you to fine-tune this automation. So you have this time multiplier, you have these swing settings, the attack, the decay, sustain, and the gate. So now it's just a lot quicker to go in and manipulate these automation points that you have inside of your automation clip. There's a few other updates that FL Studio has done, including some updates to how you can export audio. You can now export directly to SoundCloud with this upload to cloud option, and also pay attention to this all playlist tracks option. People ask for trackouts. Really all they really want are just the individual tracks, and if they liked the mix that they originally heard from my beat, most of the time they would like to keep the effects that I've had on those individual tracks and on the master, as long as I haven't totally destroyed the dynamics of the track. That way the mix engineer and the mastering engineer can still go in and manipulate the track, but they aren't starting from scratch either. So this export all playlist tracks option allows me for a really clean export that also allows me to keep all the effects from the master and the individual tracks, but it will only export the individual tracks instead of also exporting all these buses, and it keeps me from having to turn off any of these buses if I didn't want to export these buses. So this is the great thing about being an actual owner of a legit copy of FL Studio, because if you do own a legit copy, you got all these updates for free, and you'll continue getting your updates for free. But just to think that this was just a 0.1 difference from the last version, I'm really excited to see what FL Studio 21 has to offer, or whatever they decide to call it, because we all know that they skipped FL Studio version 13 and went straight to 20. Maybe this next version will be called FL Studio X. We have no idea. I do have a video coming out called 21 Things That I Want in FL Studio 21, along with a part 2, which will be 21 more things that I would like to see in FL Studio 21. So be on the lookout for that. Until then, definitely be on the lookout for these more in-depth tutorials with the new features and updates that FL Studio just dropped for FL Studio 20.6, and definitely start digging into these new important features yourself. So according to YouTube, the next video you should watch is here on your left. And if you like this video, you should definitely check out the video on your right as well. I make new videos every week, so remember to turn on notifications so that you are notified every time I drop a new video. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.